Coming here with a brand new Stir the Pod podcast show. I'm your host Trevor, and tonight we are joined by Alex. Alex, how you doing tonight?
Yo, yo, yo.
You're also joined by Andy. Andy, how you doing tonight?
What up? What up?
And we are here with the Untold History. What is this? Part 3? Part 2? Parts 3 and 4? How do we explain this?
It's parts 3 and 4.
Parts 3 and I didn't know if this is considered part 2, second night. I don't know. We're here to recap all of that. I feel like tonight is going to be kind of an awkward, maybe a quick recap. Very one by one esque, I would say. I don't know how you guys feel about that whole process, but I feel like it was 120 minutes of just nothingness, like just nothing. It was a waste of our time. Any opening thoughts about tonight's double EP?
I think we started parts 1 and 2 off on a pretty good note. I think they were both interesting. They both showed us things that we hadn't seen before, probably things that we didn't know before. I feel like everything tonight that we got in both parts, we already knew. And so, like you said, Trev, it might be a little shorter because it what they did tonight was just a massive one by one of basically challengers in this case, and it dragged for 2 hours. It was a long 2 hours. I feel like last week was a lot more fun, but we're gonna do our best to put out a good recap. But yeah, I think quality wise, tonight was at least 3 notches below last week.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like 15 minutes in, I was like, "What are we watching here? Like, why are we watching this? This isn't enjoyable." Like, it was cool. You know what it was? It was realistically a YouTube video that they just played live on MTV. Like, top challenge moments, top challenge competitors, top underdogs. Like, there was literally just a 20-minute YouTube video that they pulled into 2 hours and streamed live on MTV. That's how I view this.
No, that's a great comparison. I think one thing for me, it was one of those episodes where, Alex talks about how they just stretched it or whatever. It's like they couldn't add commercials, so like they literally had to throw in these goats for no reason. Like, I mean, we'll get into it, but Anissa, I know Andy's all team Anissa, but like, come on, like to be considered a goat.
Wait, Mikey the doctor just posted. Not only was this just a stolen Mount Rushmore, but they even mentioned the phrase Mount Rushmore of putting together a Mount Rushmore of your legends. We've done that.
But thankfully, we created Mount Rushmores.
Of course.
All right, so let's get right into it. I think that was talked about tonight was Sarah, not Rice. Sarah. Correct?
Yeah, the first part was underdogs.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. The first episode tonight was all about the underdogs. How about we do a little one by one, each person, give a quick bit, and say if they're even considered an underdog. And same thing with the goats, if they're even considered a goat. All right, so first person we had Sarah. Kind of a story that we kind of forget about, how she was thrown into elimination after elimination after elimination, going 5-0. Some of those eliminations hanging upside down for 50. Lord, that sounds miserable. I would say it's a good story, a one and done, riding off in the sunset, and she got on with her life, and that's what I thought the challenge was supposed to be about. And some of these clowns are still together for 20 plus years, still living off of the show. I think she did it right. Alex, Andy, any opinions? And I would say she would be an underdog in this case.
Yeah, I think Sarah is an underdog. I mean, I'll admit I did not see this season live. I don't think I've ever even rewatched it. But I know of Sarah. I know of the 5-0 record, and so I think that was a great place to start. And yeah, like you said, she only did one season, but it's not like she won one elimination, skated to the final, and won. She won 5. She was, I think, as they say, the elimination queen, which, like, she deserves that title. For that season, she deserves it. She wins it all, goes on, probably gets married, gets a husband, gets a job, never thinks about the challenge again, unlike, hundreds of these clowns. But yeah, I mean, I think this was a good place to start. It was a good, true underdog story.
Andy?
Yeah, I would say didn't know her, didn't know who she was. Kind of glad I know who she is now. Moving on.
There we go. Great words from Andy Burge. Before we get into person number 2, always love to see the chat popping. Ryan McCord back at it again. Mikey the Doctor. That's a goat. Surprise. Maybe we should do our top commenters, the biggest underdogs and the biggest goats tonight.
Oh, God.
We'll get into it. Okay, Squid, another classic member on that borderline of being a goat. Moving on to the second person of the underdogs, we had Devin. This is where after one person we started going up and down on this roller coaster of what is considered an underdog and what is considered a go. Devin, for me, I don't know what I would classify her as. I don't know if I think it's more. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. And for me, it's like more of a make-a-wish, like for her to finish like the final and stuff like that. Like it's part of the game. Why is that considered I look as an underdog as like somebody going into an elimination who isn't supposed to win.
I think I consider Devin an underdog.
Okay, and what's your reasoning?
Because she's someone who you don't expect to do anything in a season, and she was 2 for 2 making the finals.
But did she do anything? Besides
she played a good
final.
She played a good social game.
I mean, I felt like throughout the season, both seasons, people thought she was a layup. So she kind of just sat there and did nothing.
So doesn't that inherently make her an underdog if she wins?
I mean, I don't know. I'm asking you guys. I just feel like
the fact that like Devin athletically is such
terrible.
A bad competitor. The fact that she was able to make 2 finals, compete 2 finals, finish them, I think that's a true underdog story.
But she didn't. What adversity did she go through? Fixing her wig?
She sucks. That's the thing, is that she wasn't expected to do good.
But like there was no like my issue with it is there was no challenge. Like you could have thrown me in her and I would have gone to the final.
I kind of get what you're saying, but I think Alex makes a point of the social game.
Fair. That's fair. No,
but you do have to think how much of it was actual social game and how much of it was people thinking, hey, we need her in the final. I want to run against her in the final.
Exactly.
Which is not a social game.
Exactly. So would you say Jay, who quit in the final, let's say he finishes the final, is he an underdog? Jay and Jenna?
Yes.
You would say he's an underdog?
He was like 120 pounds soaking wet.
Okay. That's fine. I'm just, but like, it was to me, an underdog.
What you're saying, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Like they don't do anything. Like it's not that hard.
I don't hate your logic, Trev.
God.
It's almost like, if Barry Bonds didn't have a bat during that 2004 series.
God.
All right, here's the official definition from Oxford Dictionary.
Okay.
Underdog. A competitor thought to have little chance of winning a fight or contest.
I think she's an underdog.
But to that statement, what did she win?
I mean,
she finished last in everything.
But she finished above like 20 people each season.
Yeah. Here's the thing, Trev. Imagine, to start off the season, she had to have been opened at plus 10,000. Like literally the biggest underdog. And for her to finish third, pretty impressive.
You're making some money.
A little cash out at like plus 6,500.
That's fine. All right, moving on. That's enough from Devin. Next one. And I was surprised to see this as an underdog and not a GOAT. Jordan. And they played this more as the disability and I feel like now for us especially, we don't look at Jordan with a disability. I feel like to us he is a GOAT. Like he is a staple. He is just so fucking good. He beat Josh in an elimination that literally requires 2 hands to be good at. But he's just he played college football. He's legit. So What else do we think about Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I see where MTV was coming from, putting him on the underdog side of the things tonight. Because of that, I do want to bring up. I know you just said it, but I want to bring up the tug of war thing. And as they were playing it, showing all the highlights, my thought was, I think the Jordan Josh tug of war has actually somehow kind of been underrated in the grand scheme of challenge moments. Like, they did a good job hyping it up tonight, obviously because they were showcasing Jordan. But I think most people, when they think of top challenge moments, they're going to struggle a little bit before they get to this tug of war. But it really was fucking insane. Not just because of what it was and him beating him. I think for me, it was like the fact that he did it 3 times in a row. It wasn't a one-off thing where he got lucky once or twice. Did it 3 times in a row. And then also, if you think back to that season and that moment, that was like maybe the last elimination before the final or one of the very last 2 or 3. And Jordan, I think, had just turned sides to UK at that point. Like, it was a very critical point in the game. They thought they were getting rid of Jordan. They thought they were using the goof to do it. And Jordan still somehow prevails. Like, I think that is kind of an underrated challenge moment just in the grand scheme of things.
I thought the same thing when they were showing this. I mean, it's an all-time. I think I would put that on my Mount Rushmore of challenge moments. I really would. He won tug of war with one hand. You don't win tug of war with your mind. I guess they kind of did on Squid Games, and I guess Jordan did here. But, I mean, he mentally bullied Josh in a game that he was destined to lose. That was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those eliminations, like you said, that, like, you look back 5 years from now and you just see, oh, Jordan beat Josh, and it's no big deal or anything like that until you actually break it down and be like, oh shit, this was a tug of war when Jordan probably weighs 50 less pounds and he has one less hand. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, and I think that season, I think overall it was all right, but it was a long season. It dragged. It was very predictable, and so I think
that doesn't sound right.
I think at that point of the season we were kind of like checked out, and so at the time it was like, oh yeah, Jordan beat Josh. That was like a crazy thing that happened, like good win, but we weren't really paying as much attention as we should have, and it was just like an all-time challenge moment.
Yeah, and then that leads into kind of the last part of Jordan that we saw was when he went. What was it? Was it the pole wrestle versus Fezzi? I just think even that elimination person. Like, I mean, I think he dislocated his shoulder in that elimination or whatever. Still, I mean, I really loved another thing. Like I said last week, the behind the scenes stuff where we saw him with the green screen behind him, up on all the meds, still going through, doing all that stuff. Like, that's the shit I like. Like, I'm glad they showed that, but anything else to wrap Jordan up?
I'm good.
Legend.
Just crazy he was in the underdog category of tonight.
Yeah, like we said, I would classify him as a GOAT. You too?
Way more than I would an underdog.
We're
not even close.
Yeah, I mean, Trev, you kind of alluded to it early on tonight, but they took a lot of liberties tonight with some of their categories of people, and Jordan as an underdog is definitely one of
them. Yeah, absolutely. Moving on. DM, next person. I think another true underdog story of everything. just one of the most. I'm sorry, the chat right now. Hey, Alex, take it away for a sec.
DM was the next one. I think she might have gotten the longest feature tonight. And, I mean, for good reason. DM was a legend. They did, I think, a good job showing basically the timeline of everything that she was going through. They did a good job. They highlighted another classic all-time challenge moment, which was the DM taking off her wig, and they did a good job kind of going into the background of that. Diem, I think I think they might have the last person to talk about Diem might have been Wes when he basically said like, Diem has never officially won a challenge season, but she's won a lot from being on this show. And I think as viewers, we can see that Diem didn't win the challenge. She never won a season. She wasn't like the most feared competitor, but at the same time, she was one of the people that we enjoyed seeing on our screens the most.
Andy?
I agree. I always liked Diem. I think that the wig reveal moment was amazing. Everyone on the show says good things about her, and she seemed like a very fun person to be around who was always well liked on the show. So I was happy that they paid a nice, what I thought was the right amount of time. It didn't feel like too much. It kind of teetered on that line, but it was a good amount. It wasn't too short. They didn't blaze past it. And I do think Underdog is pretty accurate for her too throughout her time.
Yeah, absolutely. Could not agree more. Moving on to the next, and this group was kind of together. Leroy and Nani as underdogs. I think the stat of tonight that blows my mind is Leroy being in 12 seasons and not winning. Like that is just bonkers to me. And we can talk about. I don't think I would classify Leroy as an underdog either. I just why would he be considered an underdog? Like what adversity has he gone through would be my question. Like,
I think you're right. I don't think underdog's the right
word for it. Yes.
Right. But and I mean he's 0-12, but I think it's almost like again, like that's like I forget who referenced Charles Barkley, but that's like who Leroy is as a challenger. And no one ever has said Charles Barkley was an underdog. Like an incredible talent, just couldn't win the final thing. But in my mind, that doesn't make you an underdog at all because on almost every season, he was like thought of as gonna be one of the better players. And even in his rookie season, he made the finals. So like, I don't think underdog's the right word.
I'm trying to think of what the word is. If it's like, I don't know, Alex, anything?
I mean, yeah, I didn't mind Leroy being included. I guess. I mean, we don't really know what the next 2 episodes are going to be, but I think if they are kind of doing these like 8-minute tributes to a select group of challengers, I think Leroy deserves a spot just for something. And I think his something is doing 12 seasons and not winning. So maybe that falls into the underdog bucket. I don't know. I enjoyed this part because it was, someone who has given us so much. We've recapped him so much on the show and has never won. Honestly, I think Leroy deserves his own Legends tour on the Stir the Pod series. And I think that would actually be an interesting one where it's the first one we've ever done without rings. And I think maybe the only one that we would ever do without rings, but we would actually have stuff to talk about because he's done 12 seasons. He's had so much bad luck, but at the same time, a lot of impressive performances. So I think we might circle back to an off-season Legends tour for Leroy.
Squid writes that I think Legend is I feel like GOAT versus Legend is a completely different ball game. Would you put Leroy in the Hall of Fame?
I think
it also depends on how many people are we letting in the Hall of Fame to begin. Like realistically, if I say there's 10 guys in the Hall of Fame, I think he makes the cut. If it's 5, I don't think he does.
I think that's probably right. And honestly, now I think 10.
I think
be cutting it a bit close. In my mind. Like, I think if you actually looked at the list, like, even someone like Jordan.
Or Miz. On and on, yeah.
Yeah. And even, I mean, people that you don't hear about these days who, like, could probably have been mentioned on today's episodes during the GOAT section. But, like, Kenny. I'm taking Kenny in the Hall of Fame over Leroy any day of the week.
You mean Wes's partner?
Sure. The one that carried him up the mountain.
One last thing before Nani. Who would you consider more of a legend / GOAT? Leroy or Landon? Because I look at it as two ways. Yes, Landon won more, but Leroy's done more for the show.
And if you look at his numbers, he probably has better numbers aside from rings relative to Landon because he was on the show for 12 seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think challenge legend, challenge GOAT, I'm 100 times going to think Landon more so than I think Leroy.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, moving on to Nani. I would say Nani first half of her career. I don't even. This is another one where I look at. I think she is an underdog because every season we do these preview shows and we think there's a 0% chance she's going to win. And most recently, she has done very well, which I'm surprised. Is that a lack of female cast members, or is she just getting better during the age? I don't know. I think Nani, beginning of her career, was just off the rails. And, she kind of talked about that, how she's smoked like a full pack of cigs a day and stuff like that. So I don't know. Alex, what do you think about Nani?
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm surprised that you had more of a problem with other people being an underdog than Nani, because I think Nani has her place in challenge history, but she doesn't have one hand. She didn't go through things that DM went through. She didn't I guess there's not like a concrete thing that I can say, oh, Nani's an underdog because of this. But
yeah.
What? Because she's not that. I mean, Nani, I think, is a very important challenge character in all of this. Her career is kind of in two parts. The first part, and then she took a long break, and she's now in her second wave. Her first one, she was smoking cigs, like you said, drinking, insane, hooking up with everybody. Now she's coming back, hooking up with rookies, hooking up with Casey, making finals, doing better. I mean, like I said, she's a good challenger. She's not a great challenger. I'm glad that she got something tonight, but I don't know. It is what it is.
So you wouldn't classify her as an underdog?
I would classify her as middle of the road.
So just above underdog?
Yeah, she's a dog. I don't think there's anything that puts her under.
She's a mid dog?
Yes.
All right. Andy?
I don't know. I think I would say underdog.
Wow.
Because at some point in time, she is going to be an underdog, and it's going to be about halfway through the season.
Well,
I think what would have convinced me to call her an underdog is if in one of these last couple seasons she was able to steal a gold medal somehow. And then it's like, oh, she's a true underdog story because she pushed through all these seasons and she finally broke through. But at the same time, like Wes said, Nani is going to win. It's just a matter of time, which I hope she does. I'm still pulling for her. Who knows if she actually will, but I would like to see Nani win. She's top of my people I root for leaderboard.
Gotcha. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. I just think the difference between her and like Devin, for example, coming into that season, Nani will go see an elimination. Devin will not. Devin will be carried along by these vets till the very end, and Nani will get challenged at some point. That's how I look at it. That's why I think she's an underdog more.
Yep.
And she's also bad.
Young Nani. And current day Nani.
Even current Nani is in a different way bad.
God, she's
all right. Who's next?
All right. Next we got
legend.
We got the legend himself, Andy's boy, Derek. Another person I don't even think would be.
Let's just say I've watched too much Derek Kaczynski tonight than I should ever watch in my life.
I think Derek. How many rings does Derek have? 3? How can you? It's the same thing as. I don't know. I was going to say the same thing as Jordan, but obviously Jordan is just a little different.
I think Derek is an underdog because he's little, because he's short, I don't know. In terms of the GOAT underdog Venn diagram, I think Derek actually falls in the middle somehow. I think he was an underdog. Now he's maybe not a GOAT, but he is a challenge legend. He has 3 rings. Not a lot of guys can say that. But I think he belonged. He deserves a special place. But like Andy said, he's just over the top so much these days. Once he found out what that dude's name, Jaeger. I mean, they have 30 ads every podcast they do. They have these little shows, and that guy's an idiot. They have these like shows in the suburbs, not in the city. I mean, Trev, you take it away because I'll just say too many things.
I can't really speak anymore. Everything you said was true. Did you once pay like $89.99 for like a basic membership, and then you had to cancel because
they were charging that.
Yeah, I know. And then it got raised to like $4.99.
It comes with perks though. You get a phone call each month from Derek.
God, could you imagine if like what we honestly should do is make like a fake Instagram account of some like challenger we've never heard from. I don't know, maybe like Alton or something that we haven't heard from in years, and just make an Instagram, DM him, and act like for like 2.5 years we're best friends with him. Hey, get me back on the show and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe we should do something like that.
We'll get into that.
All right. So that was the last underdog. Should we talk about underdogs that were left off, or just go right into EP2, the GOATs? Andy says,
I say let's keep it. My only thought on that, and somebody mentioned it in the chat, is like layups is also an interesting one that in theory could be the biggest underdogs.
Okay.
But like if you think just like who's the biggest layup, you're thinking of quite a few names that were not talked about tonight.
Well, what I was going to bring up was like Big T. Is she an underdog? And I would say yes.
She's an underdog, but should she be in a documentary? Because what?
No. I'm just saying in general underdogs. I'm not saying deserve to be.
Yeah, I would say like modern day Leroy would be a Kyle or a Nelly T.
I was gonna say Kyle. Kyle was gonna be mine. So, all right, we'll come back to that. Maybe we'll see. We'll get into it. But going into the GOATs, the first one might be the most successful person outside of the challenge, The Miz. Just talk about just an insane person who I still can't believe he was on 5 seasons of the challenge. That's crazy to me.
Do we know how many he won?
I think he won 3. But we'll get our stat department on it. But talk about a guy, like I said, outside of the challenge, he's a 2-time champ. Outside of the challenge, his whole WWE career after that, he is literally, and I think OK Squid says it, he is in a different category of just he's done it all. It's insane, and it's well to him. And the one thing I'll respect with him is how big he is in WWE now and just everything like that. He comes back for the challenge a lot of the time. Maybe not to do the actual challenge, but he was the host of Champs vs. Stars for 2 seasons. He's in documentaries like this. He's well, like he'll get back to the challenge community, which I appreciate from him.
Well, and he talked about that tonight where he said, like, I owe everything to the real world and the challenge.
Yeah.
Like, that's how he got started. And he clearly doesn't take it for granted. So it's good to see that. And honestly, like, the only real comparison I can think of with The Miz is like when Pat McAfee left Barstool. It happens on good terms. Everyone's happy, but some people are just too big to ride in the ship. They need their own. And that's kind of what Pat turned into. It's kind of what The Miz is now. So
yeah. Mikey the Doctor writes, if he came back now, how well do you guys think he would do? I think he would do pretty well. And I also think it's very dependent on who else is in the house for alliances and stuff. But I mean, he's still an athlete. Like, I mean, I still think he's probably in pretty good shape still. So, He's better than half these guys slugging beers and smoking a full pack of cigs a night.
Yeah, I think The Miz is kind of one of one. He's in his own category for these things. He's almost I feel like he's in Bananas would admit that Miz was kind of like an inspiration to him in terms of like wanting to take the challenge and do other things, which we've seen Bananas do. And Miz is kind of like the pioneer of that. I think my favorite part of The Miz tonight on the special was kind of symbolic of what we're talking about right now, is the fact that later on for Cara, we'll get into that, but for Cara, they show the reunion for one of those seasons that she won, and the host was The Miz. Like, The Miz is still in the challenge universe just doing this shit. He loves it. He's not just a challenge legend because of his 5 seasons. It's because of everything else outside of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Perfect.
Good.
So moving on, we got Anissa.
Next.
And that was talking Anissa. So next we have Darrell. Darrell is just I think one of our favorites personally. Like, Darrell is just a beast. He gets the job done. How many championships does he have? Rings? 4. He's a 4-time champ. I remember one of my favorite moments was when all 3 of us were watching the challenge at the same time, is when he came back from Invasion, and we got so fucking hyped. We were like, oh shit. I think in the trailer you kind of saw a little sneak peek of him going against Bananas, and we were just like it's going down. And I just think Darrell's one of those people that no matter what challenge it is, except heights, he's the best of the best. Like, you every season, power rankings, he's 1 or 2. That's just how it is. Alex, Andy?
I think Darrell has an incredibly fascinating challenge career because he did 4 seasons, his first 4, won them all, which is insane in its own right. He comes back for Ruins, beats Brad's face in, which he would have had an easy 5th ring, which is, if we do the Mount Rushmore of what ifs, that's right up there. If he doesn't punch Brad, he gets his 5th ring. Who knows what happens? And then he comes back with Cara on fresh meat, gets sent home, and then he just kind of is away from the challenge. So he's 4 for 6 at this point. Comes back, like you said, for Invasion, does Dirty 30, doesn't win anything, but has like his own moments. And then he comes back for Double Agents, I think a couple seasons ago, and maybe one other in there. And it's just a different Darrell that we see now. He's not used to the political game because they didn't have that back in the day, but you just can't take away his 4 rings. You can't take away the fact that he did 4 rings. And you might say that, it was a different era. A lot of people were winning. That doesn't matter. Darrell played the game while he was there. He still wins eliminations when he comes back. So, yeah, just an all-time challenge legend. This one, I don't think anybody is going to dispute him being included in the GOAT section.
No. Andy?
Yeah, I think this was the most accurate representation of what the category was. The most and the first one that I think makes sense. Maybe The Miz is a GOAT too, but Darrell is an absolute legend of the show. Like, if you're creating a GOATs category, you have to have him. Like, you really don't have a choice. And the whole thought of a dynasty being you get 3 championships in 5 years, Darrell did more than that in less time, which is absolutely insane. So there's no way you can't say what he did in his prime was nothing short of amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you could say that Darrell won all those rings back in a different era, but you didn't see anybody else going 4 for 4 all in a row. You didn't see anybody else going probably even 3 for 3 at the time. And I think also with Darrell, he's just outside of his 4 rings and everything he's done, he's maybe just like the coolest challenger that's also very fucking good. Like, he's just like Bananas and CT have kind of like transcended who they are. Whereas like Darrell, he's just a cool fucking guy. He has funny confessionals. He knows how to talk to the camera. He just kind of doesn't get involved with really a lot of drama, but like he'll comment on the drama and he'll like kind of be around and like talking to people. Everybody seems to like him. Like he's just a cool guy.
Absolutely. Okay, Squid has just been on fire tonight. I appreciate it. Moving on to the next person, we got a very interesting person, Cara Maria. I would say the first half of her career, I rooted for her, and then I don't know what was the breaking point. Bloodlines with Jamie, and I started hating her.
I think so, because that's when I think Cara was being started to like be viewed by the rest of the cast as one of the best girls. Like it was her sweet spot was when she was one of the best girls, and nobody really discredited her, but they weren't scared of her. That was the time where once she became like feared, she just sucked as a person. So I think that was the sweet spot where we as all the viewers are like, Cara's one of the best girls in the house.
Rivals,
but it didn't seem like they picked up on it. That was the best. Yeah, and then that pirate
Alex
didn't help.
Yeah, her career, I feel like, is kind of in three parts. The first part was Cara is the underdog. There's been a lot of underdog talk tonight. She was the underdog. She was the weird girl, you know, hooking up with Abram, all that. But that kind of led to the peak of her career where she was just season in, season out, one of the top girls. Everybody kind of like respected her, feared her at this point. And she was winning titles. And then I think the last part was Cara became kind of like miserable, and she was not like a fun person to have on the challenge. She wasn't having fun herself. She was with Paulie. You know, Kyle tapped her out quick, but she was just like not a fun person to have on the show. And it was kind of like she was like getting back at her underdog self in a weird way. I don't know. But I think she does belong on the GOATS category. She has one of the best resumes. She is known for, you know, being a female elimination queen, quote unquote. She has 2 rings. That's, you know, more than a lot of girls have, more than a lot of Hall of Fame girls have. So I think Cara deserves it. And she's also just spitballing here. She will also be another very interesting Legends Tour candidate for us.
Absolutely.
Ooh.
Also, if you guys remember, you can Venmo Stir the Pod. Like we said, we're trying to send Andy to Cara's and Paulie's Beach Festival next year. It's just a small donation of $5,000 for the price of it. So hopefully.
Let me ask you guys this, gun to head. Does Cara ever do a season again?
No.
I think yes.
I think tonight showed it.
Because she's not on it at all?
Yeah. I don't know if she's blacklisted. I don't think she is because she was in the show tonight. But, like, no appearance, no, especially when Paulie's doing interviews and she's not. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being optimistic, but I think
when you say seasons, is Champs vs. Pros or All Stars, does that count?
Flagship.
Cool. I say no.
I don't know. I'm holding out hope. Maybe season 40 they do a big build up, and you know Cara will come back. She'll say she's taken a lot of time off. Really had some deep self reflection. I don't know. I think she's got one more in.
God, season 40. That's going to be like year 2026 to 2028. It's going to be like a 52 week
40 episodes. 40 episodes, 40 seasons.
Bullshit.
Don't put it past.
Yeah, I'll have to do a 40T that night.
2-hour episodes.
4 hours. Go to Wendy's, grab a 4 for 4, as OK Squid said. So we only got a couple more people, and we're starting to get some big dogs. We got Wes. I know Andy thinks he's the greatest of all time.
False.
I think Wes is definitely on the Mount Rushmore of male competitors. I mean, he's just iconic. I mean, from rounding up the rookies. I mean, talk about Apex Mountain of steroid Wes just dropping down. Like, I mean, it's just insane. I don't know. I love Wes. I think he's annoying, but he's like that guy, like, you know, when you play Like back in the day, Aaron Kraft at Ohio State, you fucking hate him, but you respect him at the same time. Like every team kind of has him. The JP Heroes of the world, the Aaron Crafts of the world. He's just one of those. Matt Howard, just one of those.
Yeah, Wes is just a great challenge character. In the story of the challenge, Wes has his own chapter. He's not just a good competitor. He's really good. He's won 2 rings. He's won, he has like multiple things going for him. Like he is known as being like an all-time elimination guy. Like you don't want to see Wes in an elimination. You also don't want to see what? You also don't want to talk politics with Wes because he'll talk circles around you. See Leroy with the loaded gun trigger. Like he just has a lot of things going for him. He knows also like he's probably one of the best at just like playing it up for the cameras, talking to cameras, knowing storylines. Like he probably thinks of himself as a producer too, while he's also just a good competitor. He has good endurance. He's won finals. He's been like runner up. Like he's had plenty of partners. He had a lot of bad luck, a lot of seasons, long track record. Like he's not bananas or CT, but he's one of the all-time guys.
Yeah. I also think before Andy hops in, because I know he wants to talk a lot about his GOAT, I think you are a GOAT too if you have an episode named after you. And one of the most iconic episodes, West Side Story. Maybe the chapter of the history of the challenge could be called West Side Story. Great episode of The Ruins. Yeah, go watch it. Paramount Plus. Subscribe. Andy.
I don't really have much else to say on Wes. I mean, he was roided up when he was a good physical specimen, and he's the only one in any given challenge house with an IQ over about 40. So when he needed to be strong, he was strong, and then when he was around a bunch of idiots, he's smart. Good for him. Happy for him. He also got carried up a mountain in a final.
I feel like now I'm saying this a lot tonight, but I know we've already done a Legends tour for Wes. I think we need to revisit it.
Wow.
No.
But like,
he's done like 10 more seasons since then.
But like seriously, if we do a Legends tour, the squad would be us 3, right? Like nobody else or anything like that. I guess we're the 3 biggest West fans here.
Yeah, definitely. I don't even know if I know any other West fans.
No.
What about Bentley or Wesley? Sorry.
Yeah, no. Bentley likes Wesley.
What about Nicole?
All right, let's go.
All right, moving on. We got Killa Cam. I thought this was an interesting pick for the GOATs. I don't think she is a GOAT. Now, ask me that question in 5 seasons, could be a completely different answer. I think it's very hard to be considered a GOAT if you haven't won. That's how I look at it. And I don't want to go too far in talking about Laurel, but I felt like the girls' list of GOATs was, I mean, you're missing a lot of good people. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and that's the stupid thing about this and where the challenge always drops the ball. There's just no clear criteria on what qualified as a GOAT and what qualified as an underdog. So, I mean, she's really good, but she's not a GOAT. You can't say Cam is a GOAT of this show. You just can't.
As of right now. And that's the thing. It's not like she can't be. Like, it's just when you haven't won, it's tough. That's how I look at it. I think there's special occasions when, like Leroy, for example, 12 seasons. It's completely. How many seasons has Cam done? 4, 5,
5.
So it's hard to compare 7 different seasons. Like I just felt like they could have added a different girl in there, or 2 instead. Like I look at, I mean, what about Coral? What about Emily? I mean, what about what would you classify Paula as?
That's what I was just gonna say. If she's got a ring, and I mean, she was a staple in the show for such a long time. She's got 2.
What about Evelyn?
Yeah, Evelyn doesn't have as much of a longevity, at least as Paula. I can't imagine. Paula was on until she was 40. But I do think, like, if you're just looking at what they did on the show, yeah, kind of got to give it to Paula.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cam is one of the best female challengers that's active right now. She's not one of the best female challengers of all time. And she's got no ring. She's not a GOAT. Even if she had one, because of her short resume, it would be like maybe you could talk me into it. But at this point, no rings. It just makes no sense in my mind.
It's the eliminations, like the chat is saying. And yeah, that's fair. It's part of the game. But at the end of the day, that's
It
like
don't
saying,
mean a thing without
that's like,
ring.
I mean, that's like saying LeBron James going to the finals and not winning. I mean, so you would say LeBron's better than Jordan in that argument. So
MJ.
Kobe.
Well, Jordan was an underdog.
God, watch it's flu game. Then we go into Laurel. Absolute GOAT, I think. I mean, when you in elimination wise, same thing you can say for Cam. You do not want to go into elimination with this person. Elimination record, stud. And then when you top it off with finals with rings as well, that's how I look at it. How many? She has 2 rings, right, Alex? 1?
Just one.
Oh, that's kind of slept on. Free agents is her only. She didn't win Rivals 2. She lost in Fresh Meat in the finale.
She did Fresh Meat final, Cutthroat final, Rivals final. Came back for Free Agents, won it all. Lost Invasion, lost War of the Worlds 2.
Ooh, I thought her resume was a little bit better than that.
Yeah, she has a sneaky, not as good resume as you would think. I mean, the eliminations speak for itself, but
I thought she had 2 rings. I knew she had obviously Free Agents, but interesting. Andy,
season 38, maybe.
I love Laurel. I mean, I think she's definitely a GOAT. And I think the fact she's got a ring with the amount that she was on, 7 seasons, and the numbers to back it up during the show, I think she's a GOAT for sure.
Yeah. Alex?
No, I mean, completely agree. She had a limited season count, but in those seasons, she made the absolute most of it. And if she didn't win Free Agents, I probably wouldn't be saying that because it doesn't mean a thing without the ring. She won. She got the monkey off her back, very Steve Young-esque, while at the same time just killing bitches in the elimination round.
Yeah, and I think those two, her and Cam, are a very similar person in elimination style. It's at the end of the day, Laurel's got that ring. And if Cam wins next season, she's not, I don't even think she's on it, but if she were to win next season, that she's on, yeah, I think that gets her into that category. It's the dreaded ring, as bad as
in Laurel also, she's not like the best like social or political player, but it's kind of because she doesn't have to be, because Laurel, more so than almost any other female, has an intimidation factor, like similar to CT in a lot of ways. Like girls just don't want to go up against her, and that's what she does so well, is she capitalizes on all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, arguably the only people I'll say that are you don't even need to make an argument for, that are just the ultimate goats of the show. I really don't think anybody can even question these people being on the Mount Rushmore, being 1 and 2, depending on how you want to put them. That can be up for debate. Maybe we'll debate it right now. But we'll go in order of the show first. The first person they talked about was CT. CT, for me, like they said, you don't want to see an elimination against him. You do not want to even be walking into a season with CT. He is a freak. And I think in the back half of his career, he has dominated. It is just not even close. Now, he's got 6 rings.
5.
God, I feel like he has more than that. All these seasons. I'll give him basically 2 for this past season for how long it was. To me, I'll actually wait. You go first, because I'll transition into bananas and my opinion of who the real GOAT is.
Yeah, Alex? I mean, it's tough to talk about CT in this context compared to 20 other people that we mentioned tonight, just because we could go on for literal like hours about CT. He is like one, if not two, in anybody's rankings. He's a legend. He's carried the show for the past few seasons now. He's just stockpiling rings while everybody's just fucking around. Corey and Nelson and Kyle are just like shooting bullets at each other while CT is winning another challenge. He is an absolute legend. I think what's interesting the most to me about CT is the fact that he has had probably the second place would be Kara, just in terms of like interesting character arc, because CT started as like this big meathead from Boston, like punching people, getting kicked off, to like just kind of like a really good like challenge character who had kind of more of a level head, but was also like very strong, to like the dad bod era where he was kind of like fatter, people underestimated him, and he was still like able to make it to finals and win some championships, to now the current era of CT where it's just like he's almost invisible. Like it's like people know he's CT, but they're afraid to say that he's CT, and he just kind of hides in the background. Nobody does anything. So it's just like he's so smart about how he plays the game now. He just lets everybody take jabs at each other. Like I said, I mean, we could go on for hours about him. He's an absolute legend of the game.
Andy?
I mean, I think CT is the most dominant. Like, I think he is the Shaq of the challenge with more rings. So it's hard to think about that and not think of him as one of the best to ever do it, because no one in their right mind really would want to face CT at all of the 3 stages, or maybe 4 stages of his career. You did not want him when he was a psycho meathead that you had to have subtitles on to see what he was saying, or when he like started to become a little bit more fine-tuned, like Rivals 2-ish, where he was just a little more dialed in. And then now in the twilight part of CT's career, when he went dad bod a little bit, wondering that he's now trimmed down and looking amazing for his age. You don't want to go against him now either. So it's like you never wanted to go against CT, and you still don't.
Yeah. And that transitions into Bananas, who, for me, I will say Bananas is better than CT, I think. The rings, and I see some people in the chat, and I was surprised that she got some more airtime today. But Jemmy said it best. CT's wins has been significantly easier than Bananas, and that's a fact. Bananas rings way harder. The competition, everything like that. That also puts the pressure on Bananas this season with him coming back in season 38. And I don't want to say it now, but is this a must win for Bananas this season?
With Nani as his teammate, is it must win, or is it more can't lose?
Very, very true. I just think I look at Bananas, and yes, he's been on 20 seasons, but when you think of the challenge, you think of him before you think of CT. And I'm sorry, you do. They hype up, and you see the banana backpack and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. Take the money and run, change the game. It literally, they made that thing directly because of him. And that producer could be like, oh, we didn't think he would take it. Yeah, bullshit. You wouldn't have done that instead. I mean, the reason it's in the game now is because of Johnny Bananas. And I mean, when you have your own rule named after you, I mean, that speaks for itself.
Yeah, I think maybe my favorite part of the whole 2 hours we got tonight was the last minute and a half, where they really hyped up CT versus Bananas, and they were showing the montages, like, cutting to different people talking about them, and they basically left it as like, Bananas is a challenge goat, CT is a challenge goat. Maybe they just need to go at it one more time to kind of settle the score. CT is kind of catching up to him on rings, but we would really love to see them on one more season together. We obviously know that's not the case this season because CT is not on it. So that kind of even like adds more anticipation to it. Like, who knows? Will we ever get a season with both of them on it again? Because they're both so fucking old now. It's absurd. It's crazy that it's 2022, almost 2023, and we're still talking about CT and Bananas as the two, not just faces of the challenge, but like unquestioned faces of the challenge. So I think they did a good job playing it up as like, whether CT is your GOAT, whether Bananas is your GOAT, it's those two, and hopefully we get one last go around with them. It's very Brady Manning-esque, where it's like, even in their prime, at the peak of their powers, it was like the best rivalry. People tried to replicate it. You know, you have Mahomes and Herbert. That doesn't hold a candle to Brady and Manning. Like, these are the two best.
Brady and I don't even think it's Brady and Manning, though.
You think it's LeBron MJ?
I would say it's more that than Brady and Manning. I think in the Brady Manning case, I would say Brady versus Manning is the equivalent of like Wes versus Bananas being Brady and Wes being Peyton. I think a slap in the face is to say CT is Peyton Manning. That's how I look at it.
Interesting. But I personally don't hate that because I give the edge to Bananas. Like, I'm sorry, I do. But yeah. And same with that scenario, it kind of works out nicely. As much as I love Peyton, Brady's Brady.
Yeah.
He is the GOAT. But I kind of like that comparison strictly because of how I view Bananas and CT.
I think the gap between, and I know we're kind of breaking off, the gap between Brady and Manning is bigger than CT and Bananas.
I agree. I think though, it's because of a lot of what Brady's been able to do post Peyton. But at the time, like when they were both in the league,
they were. That's fair. That's fair.
It wasn't just that they were so close. It was that like it was a big fucking thing. Like they had the best rivalry. And I mean, we can start maybe the debate now. The best rivalry in sports active right now, I think it might be CT and Bananas.
Oh, come on. Are they both considered active?
They're both. I mean, CT won last season. CT won the season before. Bananas won the season before. CT won the season before. Like, it's these two fucking guys.
Well, it's
rivalry in sports.
Let me add this to it because I think this gives me a lot more hope. I think the past couple of years when Bananas has been taking kind of a hiatus to like do his own thing in media and everything, I think it's kind of flopped. I don't really feel like it's been too successful. So what does someone who's been on the challenge, who needs money, what do? They go back on the challenge. And CT's going nowhere. So if Bananas ends up coming back and we get like another 3 seasons of those two together, I mean, new shorts.
What would happen like if those two were paired up for like Rivals 4? What would happen? Would the game just be over after week 1? They would just be like people wave the white flag. Like it would just be like week on the challenge. It would almost be like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, like the Robot Chicken little clip where they're like, oh, we got to do 10 more. We have a contract to do 10 more episodes of this. That's what it would be like.
I mean, those two, they made a lot of mistakes tonight, you know, showing people as goats, underdogs that probably shouldn't have been. They couldn't have messed it up by ending with Bananas and CT.
Yeah. So that's a little one by one. I can't believe we've been talking for 58 minutes now. That's just kind of off the rails. Well, it's our time for our favorite segment of the show. You guys know what to do. Be in the chat, MVP, LVP time. Tell us the order. We'll be giving our MVP tonight and our LVP tonight. The first response that we get in the chat will be the order of tonight's MVP, LVP. So my guess will be Alex, Andy, Trev would be my guess. Let's see.
What about Goat Snubs?
Goat Snubs. I would say, as the biggest Kenny fan,
watch it.
I would say Kenny. I would say Shram, Goat. I would say
if you mention Kenny, you have to at least talk about Evan.
Evan's up there. I would say Bootstrap. I would say.
All right, we got an order.
All right. We got Andy, Trev, Alex from Mikey the Doctor. Andy, bombs away.
Oh God, MVP. This is a tough one, but I think I'm gonna go Bananas.
God.
I mean, if I have the chance to pick Bananas as my MVP, I'm going to. He did like the interviews where he was talking about himself and other people. He was there. He was in it. He is my GOAT. And I think this is the first of many more interactions between Johnny Bananas and the challenge. And even more importantly, Johnny Bananas and the challenge, and then the challenge to stir the pot.
My MVP tonight might be the first time we've ever given this person an MVP tonight, and they were on tonight's episode. My MVP is going to be The Miz. I think The Miz is just a straight up GOAT. I think he is maybe the king, or not the. I shouldn't say the king. One of the founders of stirring the pot and just going insane and doing all that. So I have to go The Miz, just a pioneer, a little Lewis and Clark.
That's a good pick. My MVP, I'm going to go Jordan.
Ooh.
I'm going to go Jordan. We debated whether or not he should be an underdog, and that's all because of the fact that he's too fucking good to be an underdog. He probably should have been on the GOATs. We got to see some good Jordan highlights with the sledgehammer against Zach. Stuff going back to like Rivals 2, Free Agents, and then obviously the Josh Tug Award. Like just an absolute fucking legend. I know we've done a Legends tour for him before. He's on this next season. He's awesome.
Before you kick us back with the LVPs, I just wanted to say that the other two people I had in my mind were The Miz and Jordan. I think we would just win 3 for 3 on the right MVP picks right there as a team.
Wow. Clap on 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, not too shabby.
Is the delay that bad?
Come on. All right, LVP, Alex, who you got?
All right, my LVP is going to be season 38, Jordan's partner, Anissa.
Wow.
Just terrible. I mean, I could give it to production or MTV or whoever for putting them on the list, Anissa. But, I mean, just terrible. Just taking up too much of my screen, both in length and size of the screen. Just not interested at all. Fast forward, just a quick pee break. I'm out on Anissa.
She was in tonight's episode. Did we talk about her tonight? I forget.
Yes,
we talked.
We said everything we needed to say about Anissa.
All right. My LVP tonight is production. The fact that they made us sit through a 2-hour fucking episode tonight for what we saw is a slap in the face. I might need some Advil because my back is killing me. This show was a YouTube special that could have just been thrown on. So production dropped the ball tonight. It was embarrassing. My LVP tonight.
Well, those were both two of mine. So now I got to get scrappy here. So I kind of just want to default to my go-to here.
God.
And Mikey the Doctor mentioned in the chat, my LVP is going to be Fez. But my reasoning, I have some reasoning here because I think he's watching this and he is so pissed off that he was not included in either of the categories because internally he thinks he deserves to be a GOAT, but on the outside, he's a very humble guy and he doesn't like to do too much. He doesn't think too highly of himself. He thinks he is an underdog. He thinks he's got this chip on the shoulder mentality, even though he's like 6'70" or 6'7", probably 250. So the fact that he thinks I'm just a humble guy. I've always thought of myself as an underdog, but internally he's just, I think I'm the biggest, baddest guy in here. I deserve to be a GOAT along with Bananas and CT. That's what he's thinking. So LVP Fezzy.
So him being the underdog as he is, when he was in that elimination versus Jordan, he probably tried to place a bet for him like what, plus 500 he thought he was?
I think that's about right.
About right. So, alrighty. Well, thank you guys for listening to a brand new Stir the Pod podcast show. I've been seeing some questions in the chat. What are we doing next week? I am not watching next week's bullshit. Need that. We will be back though next week live. It's our favorite time of the year. It is one of my favorite episodes of the year. The season preview, the good old 1x1s, the predictions. Me and Andy are about to send our predictions to our stat department. Alex will be crunching the numbers to give the STP rankings to see where we rank each person. But we'll be doing a little 1x1. Feel free if you have any questions, shoot us in the comments, and it should be a great, fun episode next week, 10 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be back. Anything else, boys?
I can't wait. That's one of my favorite episodes every season, the season preview.
Yeah.
It's also really nice because we can easily swap that out for reviewing whatever next week's 2 episodes are. It's really kind of a perfect storm because we don't have to do that because we have to do the season preview. Good for us.
Especially after the shit that we got tonight. Like, it would be one thing if we got like 2 awesome episodes and we're like, you know, how can we fit this in? Because they kind of boxed us in here because 2 weeks from now is episode 1 of Ride or Dies. So we basically have a week in between to kind of do our season preview. So after seeing the disaster tonight, we're just going to say, you know, next week, 2 hours of whatever the special is, that's fine. But we're going to focus on Ride or Dies. Big season preview, cast preview, trailer watch, all that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys for listening to a brand new Stir the Pod podcast show. I'm your host, Trevor. You can follow us on Twitter at Stir the Pod. You can follow us on Instagram at Stir_the_pod. Thank you guys. Love you guys. Shout out Duffy. Bye-bye.
Love you guys.
Love you.